Today, I'd like to offer you example of the exam questions I gave to the students in the course I taught. The course was Molecular Biology, which is a required course for the third-year students. The course was divided into 3 parts. The first part was to teach the students about the properties and the forms of different biomolecules that are found in a living cell. The expected learning outcome was for the students to understand the different forms and functions of the biomolecules found in a living cell. They don't have to be able to remember the exact structure of the molecules themselves. So let's see how these exam questions can test them about these expected learning outcomes. Here is the first exam question. We asked the students to classify the biomolecules into different major groups: carbohydrate, lipid, protein, or nucleotide. The students may not have seen these molecules before, but based on their understanding, not just pure memorization, they should be able to recognize the classes of the molecules. The first molecule, for example, is a cholesterol, which is a lipid. The students should understand that lipid is a water-insoluble molecule, mostly composed of carbon and hydrogen. Lipid includes not only the glycerol lipids and phospholipids, but also the steroids. So, the student should be able to classify this as a lipid. The next molecule is adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. They don't have to remember the structure of ATP, but they should be able to understand that a nucleotide is composed of 3 components, which are the nitrogenous base, the sugar, and the phosphate group. Therefore, they should be able to classify this as a nucleotide. Let's move to the second question. This course was actually offered to third-year students, so a higher expected learning outcome was for the students to be able to apply the knowledge they learned. To assess this, we asked them to interpret results taken from a simple research study that was published in a real scientific journal. They had never seen this research article before, but in class we had practiced this skill by going through a different case study. Most of the terms and concepts included were familiar to the students already, but to be able to comprehend, they need to apply the knowledge in the real context. The article studied the topology of a protein called BCRP, which stands for breast cancer resistant protein. This is an important protein because it helps the cancer cells to resist the cancer drugs by pumping the drug out of the cell. Again, the ability of a student to correctly answer this question depends on his or her ability to understand as well as the ability to integrate and apply the knowledge. We can ask different questions that assess these different levels of the abilities. The first question, for example, we assess the cognitive domain at the basic level of understanding the concept they have learned by asking the students to explain what a transporter means and why the activity of BCRP requires ATP. If the students understand the concept of active transporters, which they have learned in the class, they should be able to do this. The next question, we ask the students to explain why amino acids found in the transmembrane domain of BCRP usually hydrophobic, as shown in the results of the hydrophilicity plot provided below. To answer this question, the students first have to be able to comprehend the research article, which requires application of their knowledge, and second, they have to be able to integrate the knowledge about the plasma membrane property and the different classes of amino acids. So I hope I have shown you how we can assess the students of their learning outcomes. The 2 learning outcomes again, one is to remember, the other is to integrate and apply the knowledge.